Do you know the 14 traits of successful chiropractors? We've interviewed some of the top chiropractors in the industry and have identified the common traits that they all share. Jump on over to www.chirobusinessmojo.com to get your free report today.
Welcome to the Chiro Business Mojo podcast, where we deconstruct the methods, marketing, and mindset of successful business people and chiropractors from around the world. And now your host, Dr. Richard Day.
Yes, I am Dr. Richard Day, and this is the Chiro Business Mojo podcast. Well, Happy New Year to you. It is 2017. I am so excited about this. Another year, another opportunity to go forward and move up. And I can tell you that all of us here at Chiro Business Mojo, we are excited about what this year has to bring and has to offer. We are working hard behind the scenes to bring you guys some stuff that we are so excited about. I can't wait to tell you. It's a little early now, but we will be coming forward with details of what we are working on in the very near future. And you know, New Year's is always such a fun time. You know, the holidays are over. That's behind us, which is a lot of fun, but exhausting if your holidays are anything like mine are. And then the big party, the celebration, New Year's Eve, and then New Year's Day to sort of relax and reset. And here we are back at it. And you know, I have not made a single resolution. I used to do it in the past, but you know, statistics show we really don't do much. About 20% of the things we say we're going to do, we end up sticking with 80%. 80% we just kind of let go by the wayside. Instead, I have changed the focus of my life in life design. I want to build and change and transform myself into who I want to be. And it's not happening through resolutions that happen one time a year. It is happening every day with every choice that I make. So keep that in mind. It's not the one big thing you do at the beginning of the year or a couple of things. It's every little decision, no matter how small, no matter how insignificant you think it is not insignificant. And if it helps you to think of it, you know, think of it this way. If you are in a boat and that boat is going on a 500-mile journey and you get off just a little bit to the left by 1 degree, it is going to radically change how close you get to your destination. You might end up miles or even hundreds of miles off course because of that 1 little degree. So keep that in mind. Go through this year knowing that every decision you make, no matter how insignificant, is going to take you maybe someplace you didn't want to go. So make sure that those decisions are the right decisions. So with that in mind, I want to get to our guest today. He is Dr. Dan Sullivan. Now, Dan is a chiropractor, speaker, author, and one of the most sought-after health experts in the United States. He's well known for showing chiropractors the profound science and proof behind what they do to give them the certainty in communicating to the public. And I'll tell you what, over and over again on this show, we have heard that communication is one of the number one things that seems to be lacking, really separating those chiropractors who are really getting it done, that are living the life that they want to live and serving their patients at the highest level. That's one of those things that is separating those guys from the ones who aren't doing it, the ones who are not communicating the message very well. So what Dr. Dan Sullivan has to talk about is good stuff. We really want to be able to communicate with our patients better. He began investing himself into chiropractic in 2004. His mission began with building one of the biggest single doctor natural health care clinics in the state of Nebraska. He then expanded his pursuit to the world of research and education in 2012, speaking to students, doctors, and the public while serving as an official chiropractor for the United States wrestling team during the 2012 London Olympics. He currently lives with his wife and daughters in Atlanta, Georgia, where he passionately continues to research and speak on the scientific validation of the principle of chiropractic. Welcome, Dr. Dan Sullivan.
Well, it's an honor to be here, my man. Looking forward to this.
Well, thanks so much for agreeing to be on the show. I'm excited to talk with you a little bit more. Before we get going, feel free to jump in there and correct or fill in the gaps that I may have missed in your bio.
You know what? The only thing I would say, just as we start off here, I'm just a guy that's passionate about. I come from a big family. I got 7 brothers and sisters, and I'm a guy that's just passionate about what we do in chiropractic. And when I learned the message, I couldn't turn back. And so I'm as excited, like they say, I'm excited today, and tomorrow I'll be more excited than I was today than I was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And so ultimately, I just love what we do. So.
Awesome, man. I love your passion. Well, before we get into what you are all about today, let's go back to when you first started. What got you into becoming a chiropractor?
Yeah, I had one of those stories where, I didn't have anything to do with chiropractic, didn't know it from, an orthopedist or an MD or anything, dentist for that matter. And then I got hurt pole vaulting in high school, and I went to the gamut of healthcare that was offered to me at the time. My mom's a nurse and has been a nurse for 35 years. At that time, so she went to the best that we could go to and had access to everything from orthopedists to PTs to MDs to bone scan. I mean, I had it all, bone scans, a neurologist, MRIs and everything. So nobody could help me. And then my mom was talking to our family dentist at one point, and he said, "You should try a chiropractor." And lo and behold, I did. And next thing you know, the rest is history. 12, 15 visits later, I never missed a, my big thing was baseball. And so I never missed a practice or a game that year when I thought, my time playing sports could be done. So I got into chiropractic, didn't know what it was outside of it could help people with back pain, which is a noble cause and it's a noble thing to do. However, when I got to chiropractic college and started to learn this thing outside of school, it wasn't necessarily the school I went to. I didn't learn it all in there, let alone even being exposed to our philosophy that makes our profession so beautiful. But I was exposed and started to go outside and go to different seminars, and I couldn't turn away. And so I say my chiropractor got me on the right track, got me better, got me realizing, wow, there's something to this thing. And then, I really learned what it was about in chiropractic college, and the story goes on.
So how long have you been in practice?
I've been in practice since 2005. So over 10 years, 11 years, yeah.
Well, take us back to that moment when you graduated and, the future is not yet written and you're full of excitement and a vision for what it is that you want to do next. What was that first year like owning your practice?
The first year was, I just say this. I came out of school just knowing that this message, like deep down, can change the world. Like, and I say that, and there may be somebody out there listening, and you may not have that yet, and it's okay. But I want you to be encouraged, but I also want you to continue down the road of learning and understanding our philosophy and our science. And the reason I say that is because when you start to look at our philosophy, see, one of the things I'm doing right now, I'm going to travel all over the world teaching chiropractors and really pouring into them. And one of the things I love to do is see what the world is looking at, right? Some of the experts. What are the experts, the researchers, the scientists, the guys that sit up in towers in schools? And what you need to know is that they're looking at the things that we have access to. They're looking for solutions in the single thing that we do every day, and that is tap into the nervous system. And so there's endless amounts of information out there showing what these experts are looking at. And yet here we sit on this thing called chiropractic and our ability to remove interference from the nervous system. And I'm telling you, so for me, I go back to that, your question, and I'm not avoiding it, but the question becomes, what was my first ever practice? All I remember is I have a message and I want to get it to the people. And so I did everything I possibly can and failed a lot, but I just kept realizing this thing is real and true. And I'm going to go tell it to whoever's willing to listen. And sure, there's better ways and probably more effective ways, but I just had this deep burden in a positive burden, this healthy burden to go tell as many people about this thing and rip them from the the jaws of the medical model that removes hope, that tells somebody they're weak and defective and going to be dependent upon drugs for the rest of their life, and say, no, but the design of the body was not inherently weak or defective, that we have health programmed in us from conception, and that there is a profession that honors that and seeks to remove interference to that, and that's called chiropractic. And so although people think we're about bad backs and bad necks, then my job was to actually show them what we're really about and the results they can have in their life. So when you say, now, it wasn't all peaches and cream, man. It wasn't all like you come out, tell the story, all of a sudden everybody signs up for care and we're all good to go. No. Like there's a lot of, but that was always it still is like that. Like I know this thing can change the world. And I've seen it change my world and so many others. And although some people and many people still reject it, or they need to hear it in different ways, that was my first year, coming out. Now, again, I felt, like I said, face first in a lot of things, but we had some success. I think we hit 300 visits a week in the first year, which I think by standards is pretty decent. But it wasn't that, and I don't say that for any other reason than, man, all I knew is I wanted to take over my town. I wanted my whole community to know, and so that was my kind of my first year.
So in addition to your philosophy, what else would you say was an important ingredient in that early success? Was it just the passion, the raw, making it happen?
Yeah, that combined with action and then communication strategies. I think one of the things that I could have done a lot better, a lot quicker would have been, and I did get a lot of coaching. I got a lot of mentorship out of the gates, a lot of great coaching. I interned down in Naples, Florida for about 6 months prior to me. Part was before I graduated, but also just after. And that was, like transformative because it allowed me to really get my feet underneath me to say, okay, what is it that people respond to? It's one thing to know it in my head and know in my heart and desire, but now I've got to effectively articulate this thing so people actually understand it. So communication, action, and then ultimately, the philosophy that drives it.
Well, let's shift from the past and take it into the present, and let's talk a bit about the Chiropractic Advocate.
Yeah. So I had that practice so I started my first practice in Lincoln, Nebraska, 2005. I sold that in 2012. I had this yearning that there was something more. At the time I was speaking in schools, and started kind of, I guess being more aware what I had forgotten in, 7 years or 8 years of practice there. I kind of forgot what the landscape of the schooling education was like. And so it really drove me, here we're having amazing successes and miracles and all those things in our practice, but yet still seeing a profession that is being, students that are being taught that either subluxation doesn't exist or that all we are is a great alleviation for neck and back pain. And so I wanted to be, part of that conversation. And so I sold that practice. I went and practiced in Nashville, Tennessee. I partnered with a colleague there and started to reach out to schools and different groups and organizations. And so ultimately it also led me down a path to say, hey, if what we do is real and it's true, is there science that backs it up? And if that's true, if there is science, I need to know it. I want to. So I spent about 3 years really just deeply understanding, following, my, again, other mentors, Dan Murphy, James Chestnut, John Minardi, some of these experts. And I want to take what they have and get fully bulletproof with what they have to understand it, but then take it and simplify it down so a chiropractor like myself, who's not maybe as smart as a Dan Murphy, that could take it and simplify it in simple terms so that we can communicate that to the masses. And so that's what I did, and that led into this Chiropractic Advocate thing. It was actually on a whim. I mean, I didn't really plan for some of the things I'm doing now and things I'm creating. It would just happen as an evolution of I'm getting requests. I'm getting people whether requested to speak or requested to doctors want more. They want to go deeper, and so that's kind of what spawned this Chiropractic Advocate. And then so I started to create programs and different online courses as well as even applications, resources, posters. I lately just recently put out this new brain model that helps explain, helps chiropractors explain, our influence on the brain and not just on the spine. And so that's a little overview. As it's more my burden, my passion behind it is to get chiropractors to be certain in what they do, to be certain in the influence of the chiropractic adjustment, and to be able to articulate it in a simple way that comes from the certainty and so that their confidence is high.
Yeah, and you mentioned the word articulate there, and earlier you talked about communication. Is that the biggest mistake? Is that the place where we fall down the most, is communicating what it is that we do?
Yes, I do. But I think when we say communication, we ultimately think it's the words coming out of our mouth. But what we know through communication is that over 80% of communication is nonverbal. So therefore, you show up in a whether you're doing a talk, a screening, a new patient exam, you're doing a history, like our communication shows up in our certainty and our belief in what we do. And to me, that goes back to understanding what we do. If it truly is just about bad backs and bad necks and neck pain and back pain, then we'd have to resort to that. But the reality is, not only does our clinical results over the last 120 years prove that to be different and not to be true, the research The research shows that that's also not true. And so to your point, and I think your question, certainty or communication to me comes, I always talk about the voice behind your words. What's your voice behind your words saying to a patient? Right. So we all know there's just that thing. And I'm not talking about this magical, like intense state thing. I'm more talking just our belief in ourselves. It could be somebody's trying to pick up a date, in some sort of public domain. And people read us and they know, and it's the certainty behind our voice and in anything we do. And so, yeah, to your point, I think that communication, but the communication involves a lot of things than more just, am I using the right words or scripts or whatever that.
So I want to make sure I'm following you correctly. It's not that we're just going to, get better at talking about it, but we're going to use visuals. We're going to show that as well. Is there anything else we're going to be or should be doing to improve our ability to really show and demonstrate and communicate this to the public?
Yeah, Doc, I think it comes down to four major things. I think it comes down to our certainty, and our belief and conviction in what we do. And that stems to me from the philosophy and the science of chiropractic, understanding our philosophy, understanding our science. So that comes out of that certainty. The other thing is our confidence in our technique, a confidence in our ability to deliver the goods. We know techniques, all techniques work, we know. And so it's an ability to have confidence in your hands and your heart and in your head to deliver on the promise, if you will. So the confidence there, the certainty behind that, and then you've got communication, right? So the words of communication, and then again the certainty. So the third would be the certainty, or your effectiveness in your words, and then your effectiveness in your just your presence, for lack of better terms, your presence, your nonverbal. So the presence, your certainty in your verbal and your nonverbal. I think those four things, and again, that's a tall order. It doesn't, just read a book and you have that by tomorrow. But I think that's a major part to us effectively communicating to the public.
Well, talking to the public is one thing, but what about presenting what we have to MDs? That's a tougher nut to crack, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would. And I've spent a lot of time, probably more time than I'd like to, not say, but just like I've done it quite a bit recently in the last year. I've got a lot of requests. I've been to, research centers and universities to get speaking to PhDs and MDs. And although I think there's a time and a place, and I'm not saying people should shy away from it, I think we need the certainty to be willing to do that. At the same time, here's my thing, we can't gauge our success based on the way an MD is going to actually validate or invalidate us. So like I come from a family. I've got two brothers that are medical doctors, and my mom, I said, was a nurse who's been a nurse for over 30 years. My sister's an occupational therapist. So I grew up in a medical family. Part of me, I probably carry that, thing on my shoulder to say, prove it to me, maybe prove it to my brothers or sister. Right? I'm sure I have that deep down that if I think about it, but I just would encourage chiropractor. I'm not saying we got to go out and convince an MD, that's not, but your willingness to have the conversation, I think, is the vital part. Because if you're willing to have the conversation and not having to be accepted by them, but willing to have it, I think that permeates every aspect of our practices, because if we're willing to have it with them, then our certainty that we would have there exudes from us to the common man or woman, which is what, to me, it's really about, the mom, the dad, the plumber, the accountant, the banker, the people that are the lay people, which we really need to reach. So yeah, I think, again, I think we need to have the confidence and the willingness to go speak to them, but not have to get, validated by them in order to realize the bigness of what we do.
Yeah, and the reason I asked the question is because, there are many of us who do co-manage alongside MDs, and there are people that the MDs can't help. For example, those who have had some sort of a cardiac event and can no longer take NSAIDs. So it's nice to know that maybe there's a way that alongside of improving our ability to talk to the public, that maybe we can improve our discussion with the MDs as well.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And to me, and again, brothers are MDs, so I'm hypersensitive to it. But that's why I encourage chiropractors, like, look at the data. I mean, we're not good because they're bad. We know that the stats in medicine. We know that there's not a single person that I've ever met that consciously wants to take more drugs. And so, and you look and you mentioned NSAIDs. We know NSAIDs kills over 16,000 people every year. We know every time somebody takes that, their stomach lining bleeds a teaspoon of blood. And so here's what the crazy part is that those MDs, although they're also looking at alternatives to what you're saying, they don't necessarily want so to me, the conversation is twofold. One, being willing to step in the gap for patients, saying, we do offer a healthcare and an approach that doesn't require you to take more drugs, and the data, the evidence, right? And I've got loads of research that shows our effectiveness in things, obviously like pain, but more than that, cardiovascular and the autonomic system and changing sympathetic tone and the stress response and how that plays a part in things like cardiac, a disease and blood pressure issues and cholesterol issues. So all of that, that's the stuff to me that gets me excited about being willing to have the conversation with an MD, not just about, sure, we know the influence of abnormal biomechanics, what we call subluxation, on all aspects of human performance. But we also know that because patients are looking for something different in a world where, we're not lacking information. So I think, again, this is where I want a chiropractor that can be confident in what we deliver and confident in what the needs of the patients could be or the potential for them to be, and that we can fill that gap. So to your point, yeah, absolutely.
Well, I want to shift and talk about something that's a different subject that I've already dealt with in my offices, and that is the issue of chiropractic and stroke. By now we've all heard about the Playboy model who passed away, unfortunately, of a stroke within a few days, I think, of having a chiropractic visit. So how can we best address the issue of chiropractic and stroke with our patients?
Yeah, that's a good question. Just because it's a hot topic today. First and foremost, I think the most important thing is that a chiropractor is well versed in the evidence that comes with that topic. And so, there's multiple studies. I actually wrote a blog on this. You can actually go to my website, chiropracticadvocate.com, and just go. It's like right now, it's the main one on there, a blog, and search it, chiropractic and stroke. And I wrote something you can print off and you can have it as a newsletter. I don't promote actually. Promoting this to your patient base only unless, like you were saying, Doc, is if they had a question or they had a concern and they brought that up to you, I would just hand them that, because I got 4 studies in there and I talk about this scenario. First and foremost, this scenario is completely, again, of just knowing the facts of it. I had a colleague read who got access to the coroner's report. I mean, and the coroner had no right to talk about it the way he did. I mean, he referenced a study that he referenced it in the wrong manner. He wasn't even quoting the results of the study. So there's, again, a lot of things, wrong with the picture. And what, I think about what's our job. Our job is to again, ensure the safety of the people we're taking care of. So first thing is, and I, was recently talking in New Jersey to the Chiro Association there. I said, there's not a stitch of evidence, right, that anybody can provide that shows a link between a chiropractic adjustment and vertebral artery dissection. So there's not one stitch of evidence. Now, there's corollary evidence, and that is what happened in this Katie May example. So what I use the example of, if Katie May would have put an icy hot on her neck on the Friday after she apparently took that fall on Thursday, Friday, if she would have put icy hot on her neck instead of going to the chiropractor, because the reason why she went to the chiropractor because she had neck pain. And so if she would have put icy hot on her neck, on Monday, they have said icy hot is what caused her stroke. See, and I'm being a little bit sarcastic there, but the reason is it's corollary. See, that's the only tie they made to it, is because she saw somebody for this pain, and then therefore we go trace that back. Now, there's also, even this week as we do this recording, there's going to be a Dr. Oz show with Dr. Shoshone. He's going to be on there, and a lot of guys and then we don't know what the other side is going to propose. But again, to your point, we need to be aware of it, and I don't. Again, recommend shining too much light on it, because I think it's bringing some even false concerns that don't even need to be brought up by the chiropractor. Now, if a patient comes in and has a question about it or a concern, then I think we need to be. And again, this is where we have to be well versed in what the evidence says, and then also why they would make that correlation, and so we can address it in a lovingly, very caring, compassionate way. But then assure them that that chiropractic is as safe as anything. But we also acknowledge why they're making this link, and that it's just a false accusation.
Yeah, I want to talk about it a little bit, because it is something that is going to come up from time to time from patients, and it's important for us to, like you said, to us to know and be prepared with the evidence to be able to educate our patients about the reality, because it doesn't look like anyone else is going to do that and give us a fair take.
Totally true. Yep.
Well, let's talk about just, other things regarding being successful in practice. Improving communication skills and integrating some visuals into that communication is a big part of it. What else have you found in your experience can really help practitioners to grow their practice? Hey everybody, Dr. Day here. Hey, I just want to let you know that we went long on this interview, so we are going to end it here. This is the end of part 1, and we are going to post part 2 very shortly, so make sure you check that out.
Thanks for listening to the Chiro Business Mojo podcast at www.chirobusinessmojo.com.